Stop! Before you take that next step, consider the irreversible consequences. We've reached a crossroads in the silver market that you can't ignore. Mexico, the world's largest silver producer, has sounded the alarm. Dwindling reserves. Not in a decade. Now, unlimited production is an illusion. The stream is drying up. For over 500 years, Mexico has been the bedrock of global silver supply. The empire minted currency, fueled industrial revolutions, and stood as a beacon for investment. Now this pillar is crumbling. Historical abundance has shielded markets from scarcity. That shield is now full of cracks. Collapse isn't a question of if, but when. Immediate impacts. Market destabilization spirals. Silver prices rocket, unmoored from rational metrics. Investors scurry, their safe haven turned volatile predator. Panic spreads from metal traders to tech giants, whose circuits rely on silver. We witness the first tremors of a seismic shift. Scrutinize the markets. Futures contracts fluctuate wildly. The volatility index spikes. Those unprepared will face obliteration. Strategy shifts from strategic allocations to frantic evacuations. Ignore the past at your peril. This isn't a mere blip. The world is waking to a new reality. Prepare, for what follows will reshape financial landscapes worldwide. Stocks, commodities, currencies, none will remain untouched. The era of endless silver is ending. The silver market faces a stark reality. Numbers don't lie. Mexico's dwindling reserves translate directly into hard data. Current silver production statistics paint an inevitable picture. Output declines. The timeline compresses as reserve exhaustion looms large. 2026, a pivotal year, not in some distant future, but upon us. It marks the beginning of the end. Analysts project a staggering drop in production. Not marginal, catastrophic. A 15% annual reduction, conservatively. Yet markets cling to illusions, unwilling to accept the raw truth embedded in spreadsheets. What begins as decline cascades into a freefall. Brace for thinning supplies, price surges. The economic ripple accelerates, obliterating complacency. Expert forecasts illuminate the abyss. Production won't merely slow, it will nosedive. Global silver demand continues its climb, unswayed by awareness. The demand curve rigid, uncompromising. Industrial machines can't pause. They demand silver, impervious to scarcity. Near depletion conjures flashbacks of unemployable models. The difference now is scale and speed. The implications are seismic. The projections aren't speculative whispers. They're sirens screaming for attention. Aluminum, copper, or substitutes won't stem this tide. They're whispers in a raging storm. This narrative isn't new. It's a ticking clock many choose to ignore. Mathematical certainty binds these predictions. They aren't wild guesses, but logical deductions from unyielding data. Stop. Before the spiral tightens further, understand. This decline isn't a rumor. It's an immutable fact. The signs are clear for those who dare to look. Mexico's legal framework tightens its grasp. The world stands unaware, distracted by ephemeral gains, while a foundational keystone shifts beneath its feet. Witness the moments leading to irreversible collapse. Deep within the operational core of Mexican silver production, a triangulation of dysfunction plays out. Legal restrictions constrict the very veins of extraction. The concession durations shrink, playing into the hands of political deadlines and activist agendas. These aren't bureaucratic procedures. They're the math underlying an approaching chokehold on supply. Mining operations, once reliable engines of silver, now stalled. Soil-rich territories transformed into legal battlegrounds. An impasse built not through lack of technology, but through the weight of legislative chains. Every day brings diminishing returns. Operations kneel before regulatory barricades. Higher extraction costs loom, inevitable. Resource-rich landscapes fade into memory, replaced by unfulfilled quotas and barren reserves. Brace for the storm's eye. The economic death spiral unfolds. Prices catch fire. The industry itself chokes, trapped in a labyrinth of its own making. Resource scarcities mutate markets into predators, feeding on desperation and speculation. In corridors of power, decisions ripple outward, compounding the distress in exclusive exchanges. Fingers grasp for solutions, but hands are tied by the very rules intended to stabilize. Look past the distorted metrics and let clarity emerge. The contraction isn't momentary. It's an irreversible narrowing. As options dwindle, watch the brimming optimism of industry leaders crumble in realization. The clock ticks louder. The facade of stability wears thin. Investors previously enticed now retreat. Strategies mutate, no longer seeking opportunity but survival. The nuances of legislative narratives mask a burgeoning calamity. Distill these truths. Political maneuverings aren't abstract. They're the pillaring structures leading to operational paralysis. Each spreadsheet brushing against your screen is a testament, a meticulous marker of impending deficiency. Transient gains masked by political veils will dissolve. The flawed equilibrium shattered, steering markets into uncharted territories. Such trajectories ripple beyond precious metals, unraveling through equities, economies, ecosystems. Heed the call of inevitability. It's neither distant nor deferrable. Mexico's resources are not merely dwindling, they're in their twilight. This chapter in the Silver Saga could well define the legacy for future trading paradigms. Combination of decisions past and present seal fate. Embrace reality, stop the denial. What's forecast is fixed, its impact unrelenting. There is power in knowledge, yet so few wield it effectively. When assumptions meet truth, the aftermath reshapes financial archetypes. Dissolve hope, act on strategy, refine risk calculations. Reconsider now before this descent becomes terminal. Markets await with cold indifference to sentiment. Your vigilance poisons reckless complacency. Prepare to navigate what's charted as the demise. The steep fall before stabilization fades. Shatter illusions, align strategies, persist against the tide. Adapt or succumb. Bolstered by foresight, seize control of your narrative. Act decisively. One misstep risks unparalleled obliteration. Fear etches deep lines into the fabric of global markets as the specter of silver scarcity looms. Investors whisper of shortages. Whispers become screams as the psychological tremors ripple outward. The anticipation of loss grips with vice-like tenacity. This isn't mere speculation, it's a forecast of disorder. The digits on trading screens jitter, reflecting the chaotic dance of nervously shifting capital. Amidst this turmoil, volatility becomes king. Silver prices ascend, feeding on raw panic and knee-jerk reactions. The herd mentality grips. Panic buying ensues as industries and investors seek to amass what they perceive as a bulwark against the approaching tempest, an anchor in the coming maelstrom. But this frenzy acts as fuel, propelling prices to unpredictable heights. The very act of securing stability breeds instability as price ceilings evaporate like mist. Witness the case of January 21st and 2026. It's not just history, it's a precursor, a jolt through the silver market that saw prices spike overnight as news of reserve depletion leaked prematurely. The market convulsed, dealers scrambled, contracts recalibrated with ruthless efficiency. Seeking refuge in physical assets becomes an instinctive dance, a dance that leaves behind wreckage, the chaotically rearranged chairs on a sinking vessel. Yet, as systems teeter precariously, industries reliant on silver falter. Supply chain disruptions reach tentacular lengths. Companies miscalculate. Plans devolve into managed chaos under anachronistic thinking that previous security implies future constancy. They find themselves caught, unyieldingly tethered to a finite resource, now mutating into a liability rather than the historical asset they assumed. Consider how the dialectic of scarcity and demand spirals outward, transmuting latent tensions into visible fractures. The smaller actors, unshielded from the storm's wraith, brace for impact. Their struggle amplifies through market corridors, each ripple feeding back into tighter knots of anxiety and unpredictability. In such an environment, the concept of stability becomes a cruel joke. Scramble, adapt, or perish. The rules have changed in this unfolding disruption. Prepare for further tremors. They will not abate until the system recalibrates, guided not by confidence, but by necessity. Fear commands now. Whether a catalyst for action or paralysis is yours to determine. Geopolitical tensions simmer beneath the surface, unseen yet palpable. The silver market stands not as an isolated organ, but as a vessel, circulated by the blood of international politics. Each pulse vital, each delay catastrophic. The currents of power shift and swirl, manipulated not solely by market forces, but by the machinations of states and actors far beyond our sight. Recall the Greenland crisis, a microcosm of geopolitical influence overwhelming commodity markets. An apparent shift in control made traders skittish, inciting a cascade of speculative activity and price volatility. The mere rumor of policy changes, nationalization, or trade embargoes unleashes waves that batter already fragile markets. Countries jostle for position. Plumes of rhetoric obscure real motives, an arms race of influence wielded through economic leverage. Mexico finds itself on this chessboard, a pawn facing giants vying for leverage over prized resources. Its silver reserves, once a mark of economic strength, transform into geopolitical pressure points. External forces examine Mexico's internal moves with laser focus, searching for weaknesses to exploit or alliances to forge. The country must balance intricate equations of sovereignty, cooperation, and national interest, while its autonomy wanes under the gaze of extra-national pressures. As the balance of power remains precarious, small decisions by major players swell into tempests across the market. Silver consumes global headlines, and the stakes escalate beyond mere commodity trading. Political allegiances weave into the fabric of market strategies. Investors with ears to the ground ride the shockwaves of diplomatic talks and whispered proposals for future resource claims. The omnipresent tension drapes over the decisions of even the largest institutional investors. Maneuvers become fraught with an underlying vulnerability, each pivot weighed against the potential for geopolitical aftershocks. A new world dynamic forms, defined not solely by intrinsic value, but by alliances and national strategy. Prepare for the unfolding drama. Each move, overt or covert, could skew the precarious equilibrium. This is geopolitical chess, a game not merely of rulers, but of survival. Anticipate the ripples, for they will come. A misstep on this board is more than an error. It's a public unmasking. The countdown is relentless. Adjust your strategy or witness your position erode under the relentless tide. The silver reserves, Mexico's prized possession, are now a dual-edged sword, drawing both opportunity and peril. Internal debates rage on within the halls of government. They struggle between nurturing the country's dwindling resources and ceding ground to external pressures. While some argue for aggressive conservation, others push for immediate economic gains. Each faction weighs short-term prosperity against the risks of longer-term depletion. Mexican policy architects face a harrowing choice. They must temper international expectations with domestic realities. Political strategies often clash with pressing economic necessities. Leaders know that once famed abundance gives way to scarcity, their leverage on the world stage diminishes. The repercussions go beyond mining. Every socio-political decision has economic strings attached, creating a tangled web of dependencies. The weight of these decisions is felt within international boardrooms and diplomatic chambers alike. Stakeholders, bending ears towards every rumble from Mexico City, agonize over potential policy pivots. External investors and global players contemplate how national policies will impact global supply chains. Each errant decision by Mexican officials threatens to set off chain reactions of economic turmoil. Local communities, once thriving on mining booms, face crises of unemployment and economic decline. As the government contemplates its moves, local voices grow louder. They demand both immediate economic relief and sustainable resource management. Balancing these demands fuels further internal discord. In international circles, there's speculation on how Mexico's path will shape global financial landscapes. And while the anticipation fosters cautious diplomacy, realpolitik often comes into play. Powerhouses position themselves not just to benefit, but also to manage potential fallout. Economic dependencies mean the stakes are too high for clumsiness. Underneath, strategies rapidly evolve. Some advocate for partnerships, joint ventures with multinational mining corporations to stave off economic collapse. Others push nationalist resource management, elevating sovereignty over globalization. These internal dilemmas, reflected on the global chessboard, shape an uncertain future. In every decision made within the Mexican corridors of power, ripples are felt far beyond its borders. As precious silver diminishes, a nation grapples with its identity and position in an ever-intensifying global contest. The stakes are nothing short of existential. Each strategy proposed doesn't merely project financial futures, it determines national survival. This is a watershed moment. Economic history is rewritten in the choices of leaders who must juggle ambition with pragmatism. Mexican policymakers stand at a crossroads, with the weight of a nation and the watchful eyes of a world resting on their shoulders. Silver, the paradoxical metal, commoditized as much as coveted. In times of turmoil, it offers sanctuary, not just a mineral from old Earth's crust, but a refuge from modern chaos. In Mexico's shadow, silver gleams safer, for now. Investors cling to it when all else teeters. Its dual nature, commodity and sanctuary, becomes evident. This allure isn't new. Yet in crisis, the gravitation sharpens. A metal, perhaps underestimated, becomes the market's pulse. Take gold, the arch-rival. Silver moves with subtle elegance where gold stamps its authority. Historically, both metals follow crises, but gold blares alarms, while silver acts as the quiet reassurer. Yet, when industrial unrest or geopolitical tension peaks, Silver's shine overtakes its counterpart in subtlety and power. It recalls memories of economic downturns, where every fractal of silver mattered. A lifeline to countries grappling with devaluation or inflation, where silver coins still run transactions when paper collapses. But why now? Why shift into safe haven mode today? Because the fortress feels threatened. 2026 beckons like a specter, with reserve exhaustion looming over financial landscapes. The glass bridge to that future cracks with each mining report, each reserve downgrade. Panic finds roots in investors' psyches, unraveling historical fiat with every ounce pulled from shadows. It's as if the silver gods have deigned to test human resolve, a match of wits and resourcefulness against nature's humbling limits. Yet, one cannot mask silver's intrinsic role in our world beneath its sheen. In telecommunications, it's the unseen steward enabling connections. In photovoltaics, it presses toward green revolutions. And in artificial intelligence, silver catalyzes advancements that redefine our epoch. Universality serves its legacy, but damages its respite from mercantile chaos. A double-edged sword where silver lights the way, but threatens to ignite and consume its dwindling self. Global custodians of wealth, the institutions worship their deities of diversification. Diversification without security is a firefly's dance amid descending, crushing darkness. In silver, they see not just a metal, but a promise, a stay of execution against the pendulum of economic collapse. It's not only monetary, it's existential, a philosophical embrace of safety amid entropy. No longer a tool of barter, but the check on industrial hunger and discretionary opulence. Mexico's decaying reserves snip silver's Gordian knot, industrial necessity or financial sanctuary. But as it unfolds, history doesn't suggest an either-or. The few who've learned its lessons know that in epochs of instability, silver commands both roles seamlessly. Statistics and reports only mask the fervent rush to hoard whatever gleams with certainty in an uncertain world. Gold may reign as standard, but silver survives as soldier, quietly, patiently, enduringly. The illusion of grandeur, of eternal abundance, shatters in economic minds. It's hailed as a protector, yet plays the condemned as reserves plummet. The ultimate irony. As the fortress cracks, its value fortifies. And in the end, it will hold. Not because of political machinations or technological innovations, but because despite yellowing reserves, despite discarding industrial demands, silver eternally endures. Smithy of coins, circuits, and economies, its time, like time itself, never truly ceases. In an era defined by technological propulsion and sustainability narratives, silver stands as an industrial colossus. At the heart of electronics, it bridges the gap between raw ambition and the precise conduction necessary for our digital age. In the green energy sector, its conductive prowess is unmatched. Photovoltaic cells drink in sunlight, only to send that energy surging through silver veins. The price of innovation, it seems, is weighted heavily in ounces. Artificial intelligence, the crown jewel of modern engineering, owes no small part of its rapid evolution to silver's irreplaceable attributes. As processors grow smaller and faster, the demand for precious, highly efficient metallic conductors scales beyond traditional limits. AI systems, built upon a foundation of electrons sprinting through silver pathways, showcase the metal's central role in humanity's race towards unprecedented computational heights. Demand continues its inexorable climb, its path paved by necessity in a world scrambling to redefine energy consumption and connectivity. Silver's inelastic demand within essential industries ensures that, despite skyrocketing prices, the thirst for shiny stockpiles remains unquenchable. Companies find themselves ensnared. Unable to pull back without catastrophic operational consequences, they plunge deeper into the bidding wars. Disrupted supply chains ripple through the arcane channels of global commerce. Logistics falter under geopolitical pressures and environmental catastrophes, each exacerbating the scarcity narrative. Every delayed shipment, each missed connection, tightens the noose around production schedules. Industrial titans now delve into crisis management, seeking novel extraction methods, pouring funds into recycling endeavors, and eyeing the landscape for alternative sources, be they terrestrial or otherwise. Yet silver isn't just a cold commodity. It represents a barter of beliefs and security, a tangible reserve in a world steeped in abstract fears. As industrial needs clash with financial aspirations, the inelastic demand for silver reveals a truth markets can no longer ignore. Amongst disrupted chains and ascending graphs, it fights not for relevance but for survival. The shifting silver sands now form the very fabric of endless innovations, even as shadows loom. In technology's march of progress, it remains the unmoved mover, silently commanding respect from an age short on certainties, but long on promises. Asia's voracious appetite for silver is nothing short of an industrial juggernaut. China and India, the dual titans of physical consumption, orchestrate a lifelong dance of demand that reverberates through the global markets. In an era of rapid technological transformation, their silver needs aren't merely driven by tradition, but by an unprecedented wave of modernity and ambition. Chinese factories, sprawling metropolises in themselves, devour vast quantities of silver. Their focus, building the backbone of the world's electronics industry. From smartphones nestled in every palm to intricate components within electric vehicles, Chinese industry is insatiable. This consumption, however, is far from mere habit. It is strategy, laying the groundwork for dominance in a rapidly evolving digital world. Cultural factors in India weave a different story. Silver here is an emblem of heritage and wealth, deeply embedded in the fabric of societal transactions. Yet it is India's economic momentum that amplifies this demand. A burgeoning middle class, eager to embrace modernity without abandoning tradition, turns to silver as both an industrial necessity and a symbol of prosperity. Asia's intertwined economies create a rhythmic flow of silver, feeding their relentless expansion. This cycle, however, is under siege. Rising costs strain economic models, while geopolitical tension and trade disruptions compound the challenges. Cultural factors, once pillars of predictability, now twist under the weight of economic exigencies. Nevertheless, it's the sheer scale of Asian industrial endeavors that turns silver from a mere commodity to a linchpin of future technological supremacy. As the inelasticity of demand collides with the relentless march of technological advancement, the stakes for silver squarely center on maintaining momentum amidst tightening supply chains. Yet this story doesn't end with consumption. Asia's command over silver extends into a dual-edged sword, both as a critical industrial metal and as a tool of strategic geopolitical significance. For China and India, silver isn't just a conduit for electricity or a shine in a wedding trousseau, it's an instrument of future power, hammered and molded by the pressures of global demand and limited supply. As Western economies grapple with silver's spiraling costs, Asia stands at the precipice of a choice to consolidate dominance or succumb to the pressures of a finite, dwindling resource pool. The fracturing harmony of demand versus availability isn't a distant tremor. It's the present reality, playing out on a stage where every ounce is contested and every metal grain is precious. In the silent corridors of power, in both Beijing and New Delhi, strategies are drawn. Navigating the landscape of silver scarcity demands unprecedented collaboration and insight. It requires a vision to foresee beyond current constraints to futures woven with silver threads, resilient, adaptable, and unyielding. As silver charts its way through Asia, it carries not just the weight of tech dreams, but the hope of sustained industrial might. Amidst the facade of stable supply chains, the reality beneath crumbles. Silver, once a plentiful lifeline, is now a dwindling whisper of its former self. The world's industrial veins pump slower as Mexico wavers on a precipice of depleted reserves. The ripple effects splinter far beyond the North American continent. Entire sectors brace for impact. Automakers and electronics manufacturers feel the chill first. Silver's unique conductive properties make it indispensable. As Mexican outputs weaken, these industries face immediate shortages. Contracts fail. Production halts. Boards convene in emergency sessions, calculating losses and bracing for shifts that history will remember as the silver implosion. Tech giants eye their supply chains with growing anxiety. The intricate dance with suppliers is now a frantic scramble. They plunge into strategies. Diversification is the buzzword demanding exorbitant premiums. Tech is restless, driven by the energy of electrification initiatives that hinge on silver's magic. Yet this tether weakens. Across the financial districts of New York and London, whispered conversations cascade like falling dominoes. Derivatives hedges shudder as liquidity thins. The silver trust devalues in real time, morphing optimism into dread. Phrases like hedge adjustment are soon replaced by stop-loss protocols. Porcelain smiles struggle to mask the underlying panic as news spreads of Mexico's echoed statement, critical junction at hand. Global markets seize this vacuum. Investors flee en masse from exposed assets and into more promising, albeit crowded refuges. The shifts are tactical, yet each move nudges the scales toward instability. Margin calls become common parlance. Financial institutions juggle resolution protocols, ever wary of systemic exposure. Each decision adds weight to a lingering question: what or who will break first? Meanwhile, logistics magnates scramble across high and low shipping lanes, routes chalked on maps oscillate with dynamic urgency. Mexican ports, the exit gateways of precious cargo, suffer increased scrutiny. Customs and duties mutate into bureaucratic quagmires. Insurance premiums soar, reflecting the distrust in continuity. Oceans separate intentions from obligations. Finland's nickel, South Africa's palladium stand poised for volatile swaps amidst a backdrop of declining silver influx. A web of dependency stretched to near breaking. Time isn't a luxury. Geopolitical strategies evolve on sinewy mental threads, interwoven with urgency. The tectonic shifts within industry herald an ominous refrain. Past dependencies, once pillars of economic muscle, are the chains that now threaten to suffocate innovation and expansion. Silver, the linchpin of past and future, demands not evolution, but revolution in procurement and application. Energy transitions face stark reality. Hypocrisy of green promises emerges as stark inventories chart darker paths. Solar, wind, technologies heralding a carbon-light future beg like mendicants at the altar of silver's altar. Prices rise, participation narrows, global mandates, they falter against logistical windstorms and crisis installations. The clean transition becomes an elusive specter, retreating with each tick of shrinking stockpiles. Companies turn to alternatives, yet options dwindle. Aluminum, copper, these are stopgaps, not resolutions. Innovation mandates leapfrog beyond the current framework, uprooting founding assumptions. Silver recycling initiatives rev up but fall short of addressing systemic inadequacies. Expectations shift. A timeline emerges, a countdown to inevitable stasis. It demands agile responses. Industry's cohesion fractures on the realization it stands alone. A stark reminder that foresight, though practiced, often yields to reality's harsh school. The clock ticks, not as an ally, but as a competitor on an unforgiving stage.